My guest for this week is Dr. Natalie Harvey. She is a trauma and self-worth expert whose work reminds us that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you otherwise. Dr. Harvey gets really honest in this episode about the trauma and the abuse she endured as a child and how that manifested into how she saw herself in the world, the love she attracted, the husband she attracted, and how she was able to completely rewire all that in order to attract better for herself. In this conversation, Dr. Harvey and I explore the hidden connection between trauma and self-worth, how our pain shapes our patterns, and how faith rebuilds the foundation, and what it really means to know your worth and to walk away from something that simply isn't for your highest self. So if you've ever questioned your value or found yourself stuck in cycles that don't reflect who you are, this episode is for you. Dr. Natalie Harvey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you. And I know you're in Austin, Texas.
I am in beautiful Austin, Texas. I absolutely love it here. It's starting to get a little cold here.
Well, I wish that was the case in LA because it's not getting cold here. We actually have a heat wave this week leading up to Halloween, just to kind of frame out, the timing of this. But it is really great to have you. As we spoke earlier, I was saying how much I love your words. I'm such a word girl. And you put out the most beautiful quotes that really explain the depth and the meaning behind some of these, very technical psychology terms, because we're talking about trauma today, and that's not an easy topic to cover. But I think when you can weave in some romance and some depth, it really resonates differently. All right, so let's dive right in. I really would like to start with what you do and what drew you specifically to trauma work.
So I've been an LPC or a mental health therapist for about 14 years. And in 2022, I went through a doctorate program and I focused just on grief and trauma. And the reason why I did that, and I want to be very transparent, is because I had went through so much grief and trauma in my own life that when I began to understand it, what's actually happening in the body, and not just emotions, or a lot of times, we'll call ourselves crazy or, I'm different. Or when I truly understood what was happening in my body, it brought so much peace and clarity and understanding and healing to what was going on with me. And so I absolutely love teaching about trauma and helping people with trauma, because a lot of times, we're misinformed or we're uneducated about it. And so I love to bring that piece to the puzzle.
What were you feeling in your body and what was the trauma from?
I didn't really have a connection with my dad. I grew up being bullied and I was an overweight kid, and I just had zero self-confidence. When I look back now and I kind of look back over the span of my life, it makes sense to me now why I made some kind of bad decisions, through dating and the people I chose and the things that I went through. I can understand now why I allowed some of those things to happen. And it really was just because I had no self-esteem, no self-worth, no self-confidence. And a lot of it stemmed from the trauma that I went through. Even from early childhood, there was some sexual abuse in my teenage years. And that affects you. And again, that's what I love teaching people, is that there's some things that we go through that I'm not saying that there's no way to dodge the consequences, but it makes it so hard to. But until someone teaches us that, we just feel like there's something wrong with us and we're broken. And that's not the case. Think about it. When you are, let's say, sexually abused and 1 in 3 women are sexually abused at some point of their lives. So if that happens to you at an early age, let's say 6 years old, you are taught, and most of the time it's by someone that you know or someone that you trust. So if that happens to you at the age of 6, you are taught at 6 years old that the people that you love the most can hurt you. And you are taught that now you are desensitized to people hurt me, people cross my boundaries, I'm not safe. And so what the brain starts to do now is starts to look through, adolescence, teenage years, early adulthood. It begins to look for evidence of I'm not safe. I'm not, my boundaries are not respected. And because that's become so familiar to you now, that's now what you attract. And that's now, that's the people that you date. And that's exactly what happened with me. I thought that I just wasn't good enough to get a good guy, a guy that would treat me with respect. I thought I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. Even though I had accomplished, wonderful things, I wasn't skinny enough. Nothing was enough. I wasn't sexy enough. That's what I thought. But that was only because of the trauma that had happened in my life and really rewired my brain to believe that.
When did you become conscious of this?
My early 30s, that I began to see, it was like an awakening. I really dove into trauma and learning about the brain and what happens through trauma. And when I discovered kind of like the timeline and the pieces to the puzzle, I realized, oh my gosh, this is why I've chosen what I've chosen. And I've, again, allowed, some of these really negative things to continue in my life. I really love that question, because a lot of times I'll meet with women who will say, I don't really have any trauma, or I can't really think of, anything that happened in my childhood. Well, me as a clinician, I kind of know to dig and where to dig. And a lot of times things that will come up is my mother used to yell and scream when I was young, or I was bullied really, consistently as a child. We don't think of those things as, severe trauma. And I want to remind everyone that trauma is not what we decide trauma is. Trauma is what our brain decides trauma is. It's how our brain reacts to the event that happened. So again, we might think, that's not really trauma. That's not really, that big of a deal. But if your brain is having, anxiety, panic attacks, you tense up when you think about it, it was trauma definitely to the brain.
Right. And how does someone go back and now do that inner exploration to understand if they do have some sort of trauma or something that is trapped in their psyche that they need to address?
I don't recommend this for everyone, but I will say this. I ended up taking 6 months off from work. I really took off 6 months off from life. I dove into the healing process. The reason why I did that is because let's kind of think about it. Even if we're going to therapy, say like every 2 weeks, there's a lot that happens in 2 weeks. And sometimes we can get busy and we forget and we don't follow through. I knew that I needed to heal. I knew that I wanted better for my life. And so I took off 6 months of my life, and I every day would spend 6 to 8 hours a day, just doing affirmations, meditation, tapping, listening to podcasts, listening to sermons, doing self-care. I really, really dove into that. Now, again, I know not everyone has the time or the means to do that, but I encourage people, you would be surprised of how much time you can fit in. If you even, this is a tip I give to a lot of people, if you are in a healing phase of your life, stop listening to music. Stop listening to music. Music is great. Music is wonderful. I love music. I love dance. But it's not going to give you something that's healing for you. And you're in the healing phase. So it would be a lot more productive if when you're in the car, you're listening to a podcast. You're listening that's building your self-esteem or teaching you about self-esteem. Look at it as an investment versus I don't get to listen to music. No. If you're able to listen to something and you feel even, I say a point, but 1 point higher or 1 point better, then you've done it. You've invested into yourself.
And when you are dealing with your clients, is there sort of an overarching time where people start to want to do this work? Like, when do we wake up to the idea that something might not be right and our sense of self-worth might be compromised?
This is one of the things I don't like about my work is that, and no one's exempt. It even was with myself. Most of the time it's when we've hit rock bottom. It's when we've tried all the shopping and we've tried all the, cosmetic things to make us feel good. And we've tried dating all the guys and, going on all the trips and realizing my life's not changing. It's still the same.
Because we keep attracting the exact same situation, right?
Because we're the same inside. I was at 30 years old, I was still that little girl that felt worthless because I didn't have a father that poured, worth into me or, told me how beautiful I was or special I was. So I craved that from a man.
I mean, I grew up the same way. So how does that show up in our relationships? I mean, I can certainly see how it showed up in mine, that lack of sense of self-worth. But how else does it show up? As a grown woman, being out there in the world, shouldn't we know better at this point?
I think the quick answer is like, of course we should. This is my truth. I was still a little girl that was just getting older each day, really emotionally. And I was that little girl. And so when I would get into a relationship, I really expected too much from them. I expected things from them that was never their job to do. But I see now where, yeah, of course he should compliment me or, but not in the way that I was looking for. I was looking for him to virtually like heal that part of me when that wasn't his job to do.
Right. It's not a compliment anymore. Now it's our need for validation, right? Does daddy approve of what I'm wearing, how I'm acting, what I'm saying? Is that really what it is when we don't receive that from our fathers? We seek it in men. We want them to fulfill those roles. And what does that look like?
Absolutely. I remember being 12 years old, looking for boys, to want me and like me and love me and willing to do anything they wanted to get that validation and to get that, just recognition and attention. I remember being maybe in my late 20s, kind of looking back and going, man, I've really been, an attention seeker. Just, constantly looking for attention. But it hadn't clicked yet though. It hadn't clicked of why. And like I said, I really put it all together in my 30s.
And how long did it take for you to rewire? And what does that look like?
Again, I love this question because so many of us believe, one, we're not in control of our thoughts, and that two, that we're just going to be broken forever. And I did believe that. I believed both things about myself. The reason why I took off those 6 months of work is because I knew the research behind if you do these things, this will be the result. You'll feel better in this amount of time. And so my personality, I'm very aggressive and I wanted to be healed as fast as possible. And so what I did was, for example, meditation. We've all heard of meditation. A lot of people, the number one complaint about meditation is, I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I'm doing it right. But I will say, once I learned this research, I have not shut up about it. And what it is that after 20 minutes of 2 months worth of meditation, so consistent meditation, 20 minutes a day for 2 months, the MRIs show that the part of the brain, the amygdala, that produces anxiety shrinks. It physically shrinks so that it cannot produce as much anxiety as it did before. Before those 6 months that I took off, I was having panic attacks daily, even as a clinician. Nobody knew what was going on in my life. I was having panic attacks daily. I can't even tell you the last time I've had one.
What does a panic attack feel like?
For me, again, it looks different for a lot of different people. The first panic attack I ever had in my life, I was actually in Target and I was shopping. And I just had this overwhelming feeling of like, I have to get out of here. I have to get out of here. I've also had panic attacks that look like just overwhelming, like crying, like uncontrollable crying, can't stop crying. Some people will say that, they get very sweaty, hard to breathe. I never really experienced that, maybe some hyperventilating from emotion. But yeah, it looks different for a lot of people.
Meditation is profound. I mean, I started meditating 2 years ago and it completely changed my life. And when I try to explain it to people that it takes months to really get into that flow, but once you do, life just becomes easier.
Does. And it's kind of a joke. It's like you don't care as much. You're able to let things go and just
Yes.
have more ease in your life. But again, it's because biologically, your brain doesn't care as much anymore. It's not producing the anxiety like it was before.
No, it doesn't. I mean, and it brings so many different things into alignment, right? It makes your belief in something that's a higher power just so much clearer. It allows for that voice to come through. It allows for what you're reading and what you're internalizing as material to actually now really you allow it to be integrated into how you make your decisions. In the last 2 years, and I did the same thing. I didn't go on a 6 month healing journey from work, but my healing journey was just a part of my everyday ritual, and meditation being one of them. Just last night, Dr. Natalie, I was having, going back and forth with someone on text, and the discernment I had and the intuition that I was able to apply to this situation. It's like that little girl in me who was making decisions from that wounded place was no longer. I didn't care to over explain myself to this person. I didn't care to get validation from them or even the attention. I simply said my piece and with love moved on. And it was like, who is this person? Because typically in the past, I would get into it, right? We all do because it gets the best of us. But when you can get to a place in your life where you've looked at your traumas and you've looked at how it's showing up, you actually do want to show up differently because you have to get to that point where you're just so sick of how you've been doing everything and how you've been operating that it's like, all right, let's fix this. Do you feel your clients come to you with the same, rock bottom moment where they realize that how they are moving through the world just isn't working anymore?
Absolutely. And that is the major difference I see between people that my program works for and people that it doesn't. It's like, and I hate to say this, but again, I wasn't exempt either, but I had to be hurt enough. I had to be beaten down enough. I had to be mistreated enough for me to finally wake up and go, this is not a medication issue. This is not even a therapy issue. This is I have to spiritually heal who I am. The person that I've agreed with who I am is not who I really am. And until I stop that, I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life. I had to come to that realization. As much, happiness and friends and work and accomplishments, I was miserable on the inside because I believed I wasn't good enough.
Right. Can you give us a couple examples of how you were being treated?
Just in relationships, but before I even go there, I'll say even in friendships, not that I was being treated poorly, but I always did more than I should have to show my worth, to earn my worth. That's what I thought I was doing. And when it wasn't reciprocated, then it meant that, well, they don't love me like I love them. So again, it's setting myself up for failure. I should have been giving all of my friends the $20 candle like they gave me, but no, I was going all out and, big and grand gifts because I wanted to show that I was worth it. I was worthy. I was a good friend, even though I showed that all the time.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, I definitely think that parent wound, we don't really talk about it enough because it manifests in so many different ways. It could be a mother wound, it could be a father wound. Can you explain the difference between the two? Because I'd like to really dive into how that affects us as we become adults.
I think for women especially, the father wound is so damaging to all of us. It The father wound, your relationship with your father is where you get, I feel secure, I feel safe. It's the first time you have a relationship with a man. And so that man teaches you how you should be treated and you should be loved. And I'll give a quick example. I'm divorced. I'm remarried now. But in my first marriage, this sounds so crazy even just saying it again, but my first date that I went on out with him, All that happened was we went to a gas station and he went inside to pay. And when he came out, he got himself a Dr. Pepper and he got me one too. And I thought that was huge because my father would have gotten himself a drink, probably drank it really quick and then, thrown it away. And, you know, so when he would do things like that, like pick up the bill, I thought that was huge. I thought that this is the greatest guy ever. And that was bare minimum. Bare minimum. I didn't know that though, because my father didn't show me that. He didn't show me that, this is how a man's supposed to treat you.
Oh my gosh, you hit the nail right on the head. Yeah, absolutely. We think the bare minimum is wow because we've never seen anything. So what's the opposite of that? What's the healthy version of what you were supposed to see so that we can actually grow up and demand better for ourselves or at least attract better for ourselves?
So I'll tell you exactly what I did to kind of realize that for myself. And this kind of ties into the quotes that I do. I changed the way I thought about relationships and men by looking at the relationships my friends had, the ones that I respected, of course. And I had to start teaching myself and making myself believe I deserve that too. That's what I'm going to have. My friend is no different than I am. She's not prettier. She's not smarter. She's not more successful. She doesn't have something better than what I have. She has issues just like I do. I can have and will have a wonderful, beautiful relationship just like she does. Now, of course, it felt very weird at first. I was like, no, because my whole life I told myself, I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. But I made a decision. There's no difference. And I will have that. There's no other option. Well, remember though, when you grow up with fathers like we had, we become anxiously attached. So even though, and you might resonate with this, I can say every relationship that I've gone through that's ended, it literally felt like I was going to die. Like the anxiety was so strong. It was the most horrific pain. And it could be someone that I knew a month.
Someone you don't even like necessarily, if you're being totally honest. But I find that we get so consumed in wanting to be chosen, needing that sense of validation, that we will ignore all their red flags, or we're not even looking at them as if we're the ones doing the choosing.
I didn't think I had a choice. It's just that honestly, that's one of the reasons I got married the first time was somebody actually asked me to marry them. It had nothing to do with was I attracted to him? Did I even love this person? On my wedding day, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said to myself, I know you don't love him, but you can trust him. He's a good guy. And I got married.
Wow. Do you find a lot of women have a similar conversation right before they're about to walk down the aisle?
I haven't ever heard anyone say like those words, but I think internally the beliefs there of maybe that, like I gave you the Dr. Pepper example. Maybe it's but I've never had a guy treat me this way. He's really nice to me, but that doesn't mean that he's your person. And until you have the worthiness and the confidence to own that, because it's hard. We have, like you were saying, we have that fear of, them leaving but that's what happens when we have an anxious attachment. Anxious attachment teaches us that love is to be earned. Love is to be earned. So if love is earned, of course I can't be honest and give him my true feelings because that might hurt his feelings and not like me, and then he's gone. So I need to overcompensate is what I need to do. I need to give. That'll keep.
Do you think being anxiously attached is a really big issue now in dating?
Absolutely. I think that there are so many that are unhealed and doing our best, just like I was. I didn't know. I didn't realize, that I was anxiously attached. Now I see it very clearly. But I think there's so many of us that are just walking around with open wounds.
Yeah, and I had no idea. And it took a lot to admit that, because I always consider myself a smart, level-headed person, grown adult, but at the same and a mother, someone who has good, good reasoning, good discernment and all those things. But the second I started dating, I had to stop and say, "Whoa. You're not a 37, 38-year-old, 39-year-old dating. You're a 12-year-old dating, and you don't even realize it because you haven't given yourself the chance." And it's perfectly normal. And I think the first thing in any kind of healing and change, first and foremost, is radical honesty without judgment. So I didn't want to look at myself and say, "Oh, you pathetic little thing. You don't know what you're doing." I had to stop and say, "No, you've got all the goods, but let's please address where you might get yourself in trouble." And I had to stop myself and say, "Do you really like this person? If you had to be the one choosing, do you really like this person? You don't. You just want to be chosen because that's what you're used to. You're used to putting yourself up here on a stage to perform for love. You're used to that. So now let's rewire that because let's give ourselves the love and let's give ourselves the honor and the grace. First and foremost, let's look at all the ways that I may not be healed and focus on that so that when I do, put myself out there in the world, I can have the discernment to say, as great as you are on paper or as great as you are in my mind and the fantasy and the illusion, you're actually not that great. And I can see it and I could say goodbye without feeling like I'm losing something here.
But that takes a lot of work to get to. It
Yeah.
does.
No, and it's the reason why I'm having these conversations because I saw the evolution in myself. And when I speak to the women in my DMs, and so many of them are dealing with the same thing, I really feel that we do need to give people the tools to look at themselves without judgment, with compassion, and say it's not your fault that you were betrayed as a child or traumatized as a child or lied to, criticized, there was too much expectation of perfection that you grew up with, whatever it may be, that now as a grown person who's in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, why are you still operating like a child? Let's fix it because it's possible. You can. And what is your message to people who think this is just how I am, or why do I keep running in the same circles and, recreating these patterns from myself?
I want the people that believe that to look at it just a little bit deeper. Who would choose to be treated poorly in a relationship? Who grows up and says, "I want bad boyfriends. I want divorces. I want poor relationships. I don't want to feel worthy when I'm with someone. I don't want to feel good." Nobody does that. That is outcomes of being shaped or being in atmospheres that did not groom you for greatness and for worthiness and for confidence. Unfortunately, and I'm not, my parents are good people. They just made some mistakes and I didn't get what I needed.
No, and I love that because it brings the accountability back to ourselves when you can give our parents grace. I don't look at my parents and think, "Oh, why do they do this to me? I hate them now." It's not about that. It truly is about they did the best they could. They're still doing the best they can. Our parents are living life for the first time just like we are. And if you can make peace with that and give them the dignity of their own experience and their own evolution and journey, and now turn the lens back on you and say, "Okay, this is what I was given for whatever reason, and this is what I continue to attract, but it's up to me now to change it. It's not anyone else's responsibility." And the longer you stay in victimhood, the longer you are perpetuating this endless cycle of attracting the same dynamics into your life over and over. And I've had to look at also my female friendships. How am I showing up as someone who is tolerating behavior that I know deep down inside is not correct? And how can I change that with the discernment and the confidence that I can stand up for myself and give people the opportunity to show up differently. And if they choose not to show up in the way that I need them to, it's okay to let these friendships go.
And I'd like to even add to the parents thing. A lot of people feel so guilty about maybe not having a very close relationship with their parents. And I always encourage, and I'll be transparent. I don't have a relationship with my father anymore. That was a personal decision for me. And I'll tell you, the reason for that was because was I able to forgive and all of that and understand, this is, I mean, his parents died when he was like 16. Like, he did not have the greatest upbringing. I get that. But when behavior continues and it didn't change, there became a point for me where I said, it's worse to have this in my life than not. It felt like for the first time I was choosing me, that I was no longer putting on this smiley face. And like I said, every time I would be around him, my whole body would tense up. I would be leery of what he was saying, or, how's he trying to, get over on me, or, trick me, or whatever it may be. I just, I allowed myself to choose me. And really, that was, like I said, that probably took about 20 years for me to get there. But once I got there, it actually felt good because I got off the roller coaster. I don't have to ride it anymore. Just made a decision. And there might be, a decision one day in my life where maybe I let him in a tiny, tiny bit. That might happen. But for now, I really feel good about just having a life of peace. And no one is exempt from that. No one is exempt from that. I choose peace over anything.
I hear you. I'm in the same boat. I choose peace over anything. And I find that when we're trying to make change in life, it really comes from decisions. So if you can make a decision to not do something, to not speak with someone, to choose differently for yourself, there is so much peace that comes with that because you know you're held and the person holding you is you.
A lot of that comes from also when you've done the healing work, because you've had to fight for your peace at that point. You've had to deny yourself, deny your thoughts, change the way you think, rewire your brain. And after doing all that work, you're like, finally, I have my peace. So you're not willing to trade that for anything.
It's like a muscle, right? You do 1,000 sit-ups at the gym, you're not going to want to go have a Big Mac. So when you dedicate that time to yourself and to your healing and your evolution, you don't want to go backwards in life. Because I read this really pretty quote that said, I died 1,000 times to be this version of me. So of course I'm going to protect it.
That's good. It's true.
Talking about a quote, you have this one that says, your relationship with God will set the tone for every other relationship in your life.
Where that came from is all of these years that I talk about of where, men mistreated me and I mistreated myself and I allowed things to happen. If I would have had a relationship with God, and I did, but it was very, very surfacey. If I would have had a relationship with God, and if I would have saw myself the way he sees me, and if I would have stayed connected to that, I don't believe I would have went through half of the things I went through.
Mm-hmm.
But I was disconnected, so I didn't know the truth.
Right. And how did you discover this connection with God or with spirituality that gave you, I want to say, the willingness to stand up for yourself?
So this is something that I, again, encourage everyone to do. Our thoughts are 80% negative. That's for everyone. And it's very important that we are intentional about coming back to the truth. Throughout the day, come back to the truth. You can be having the worst day on earth, but I still want you to come back to the truth. And for me, my truth was, no matter what, I am loved, adored, cherished. And I only began to believe that when I believed that I had this spiritual covering around me that had my back to the fullest. Once I started believing that, then I started believing I am loved, adored, and cherished. I am cared for deeply.
What is something that you still struggle with today? Because you said that you have to consistently stay in this practice. So what are you working on now for yourself?
Believing that I'm good enough. Believing that people accept me for who I really am versus who I portray to be. in trying to get those two to align constantly. I remind myself a lot that when my hair is in a messy bun and, I'm cleaning the house and I'm, bathing the dogs, I'm still Natalie. I'm still Dr. Natalie Harvey. I'm still like, those aren't two separate people. They just look differently sometimes. And I used to have a really hard time with believing, even friends that have been my friend for a long time, believing that they weren't just my friend for pity, that they were actually my friend. And I have to bring myself back to the truth sometimes with that. No, they love me for me. It's not because of anything I can give to them or provide for them, but they're just here because they want to be here with me, and I have to remind myself of that.
When you started doing the healing work, and you said you're now married again, how did that change in terms of, attracting your partner now?
So when I was dating at 37, something that you were talking about earlier, one of the rules that I put in place for myself was I will only date men I'm excited about. Because during that time, I was just going on date with anyone. Well, maybe this guy's the right guy, or maybe that guy. And then it formed into, because I was still, teaching myself and rewiring my brain to, if my friends can have it, I can have it. There's no difference in us. I was still doing that work to, you know, if I'm excited about the guy, I'll go out with him. If I'm not, I won't. And then it began to transform into, maybe I need to just open my mind and open my emotions to someone I'm not attracted to. But I'd done so much work on myself that my thought automatically reminded me, Natalie, there's 8 million people in this world. There are men that you're attracted to, that you actually want to be with, and you do not have to settle. But I can tell you that only happened because of all the work I had done on myself, because my mind never thought like that before.
It's that scarcity mindset too, right? You're so right. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Why do we think that we can only get what we think we want from this one person who doesn't really even have everything that we want? It's so bizarre to me. When I look at my dating now, it's like I've come very far. But something that I still am trying to learn is how to receive. Because that's hard for me. For me, receiving is like, well, what do you mean? What's the catch? Or do I deserve that? And sometimes I look at my friends who have this very soft life, and I've never lived that. And so I don't even know how to accept it if a man wants to give me that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you done to combat that?
Are we going to workshop this? I think I changed the perception of what I expect. It's not so much what I'm looking for, it's more how I want to feel in a relationship. How does this person make me feel? How do I feel in their company? And lean more into that as opposed to choosing someone based on the metrics of how they compliment me.
And how's that working for you?
It's working a lot better, I would say. And also just believing that just let this person show you who they are, for better or worse, and don't control the situation out of fear or out of the need to be in control because you're afraid to get hurt. And that really was a big thing for me. I was so scared of getting hurt again that I was protecting myself by running from whatever felt uncomfortable instead of actually saying what I think and saying what I want, and just being in it, and allowing that person to just show me. And I'm dating someone now who's showing me all the right things. And I had to first push this person away in order to now allow them to come back and just show me. And they are. And it's almost like I find I'm in a place where I think, is this too good to be true? When's the other shoe going to drop? Because I have to believe that I deserve what I'm receiving.
I tell women probably almost every day that we have to train ourselves to not take dating so seriously. Remember, if we're wanting to get married to one person, then that means 99.9% of the men are going to be the wrong ones. And that's okay. I truly believe that dating is just a numbers game. It is just a numbers game. It has nothing to do with, being good enough, pretty enough, sexy enough. It has nothing to do with that. It's a numbers game. So I'll actually share this with you and your followers is that I put I have this like dating marketing plan that I put together for myself when I was again 37 and dating. And I said, okay, if I want to get married like sooner than later, what am I going to do? And so I started thinking of it like I've been an entrepreneur. I was like, let's think of this like in an entrepreneur way. If I started a new business, how would I get the name out? Like I would say I would want every single person to know about me. I would like in every, media I possibly could, I would want to get my name out. And so I committed to going on 3 dates a week. And that would look like, maybe like a Friday and a Sunday, maybe like a Wednesday evening, but three dates a week. And I got on several different apps and I really treated it like a part-time job. And I met and married my husband in 8 months. And yeah, and I really think it's a numbers game. I really, really do.
Yeah, and taking the pressure off of it, right? It's not about, finding your next husband. It's really just this practice of discernment. For me, it changed when I realized I'm doing the choosing, right? I'm not here to be chosen by some man. I don't need that. I can take care of myself in all the ways. But what I really wanted to get into the practice of doing was going on dates and just saying like, okay, this is what I want and this is how I want to feel and I'm not going to apologize about it. You either meet the criteria or you don't meet the criteria. And it's all good either way. Like you said, it's not life or death, and not getting so upset if you go on one date and this guy, you don't like what he did. You don't have to go on the second date.
Right. And when we go into it as I'm just collecting data, and most dates are going to be the wrong ones, then again, we kind of put that boundary up for ourselves to not get so attached so soon and so early. I think that's what really, really hurts us. And then we end up staying longer than we should. And, we just kind of, prolong things and it makes us go through more pain for ourselves. But one of the things that I would do after each date that I went, I went on a lot of dates, but I would tell myself, like, if it was a bad date, I would say, I believe that there are handfuls of men that want what I want, are looking at life like I do, that we are very similar, and I know I'm going to find them. And again, it was that whole like, there's 8 billion people in this world. I live in Austin, Texas. Of course, there's handfuls of men just in my area that are normal or, actually want to be a family man, actually want to be an honest and be in a loyal relationship. I had to believe that because when you're in the dating world, you meet a lot of the guys that say that they want one thing, but then act totally different. Again, that's normal. That's part of dating. But there are handfuls of people that want what you want.
And not to take it personally when you see something icky in someone, right? I had a situation recently where I was seeing something icky in someone, and after the date, it was giving me like this, oh my God, feeling in my belly where I'm like, this is like not right. For whatever reason, it's not right. And instead of, in the past, I may have translated that in my mind as like a reflection of my self-worth. This person is doing this because I'm not good enough. So now I should act better to get better treatment. Whereas now I say, well, I didn't see what I like, so I'm moving on because this person should know by now. In the dating pool that I'm in of men who are in their 40s and maybe even 50s, you need to know this by now. And if you don't, you're not my problem to solve. I'm not going to try to save you. I'm not going to try to fix you. I need to move through the world pretty quickly. And so it's either there or it isn't.
What helped me a lot, and I'm sure this is because I'm a therapist, but I really want the women to hear this, is that when I was dating and I would get rejected from someone, and it would hurt my feelings. Of course, you're still a human being, but I would remind myself that there are things I don't know about this person. There are conversations that they're having, there's activities that they're doing that I don't know about. And I really trained myself to believe that if they rejected me, it was for my good. It was 100% for my good because there was something that was going on that I didn't.
That's right. Because we oftentimes put people on a pedestal, right? Because we view them as cuter or wealthier or smarter. And we think, okay, I need to now live up to this person's ideals, you know? And so what does that look like in dating when women put men on a pedestal, and how can we bring them down from that pedestal?
For me, it was constantly, again, bringing myself back to the truth, reminding myself of who I was. It's like what you said a second ago is like, I can take care of myself. I am the chooser here. I am the chooser here. But if you weren't telling yourself that on a regular basis, it's so easy to fall back into, why didn't he pick me? Why hasn't he called yet? Why hasn't he texted me back? It's so easy to fall into that. But we have to constantly like be committed to bringing ourselves and staying in the truth.
Right. Always bringing ourselves to that sense of wholeness. You don't need them to do any of these things. It's just welcome if they do. What are some common mistakes you find women make in early dating?
So I think a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying this, but I have to say it. I have to say it. I think that we sleep with guys too soon, too early.
What's too soon?
So, okay, so that's where it gets tricky. First of all, the reason why I think that we sleep with guys too soon is one, once we have sex with someone, research even shows that we stay longer, we put up with more, we become more connected, we're more emotionally invested. And that's my only reason for saying, wait, wait, wait. Now, I don't think there's a specific number we can put on it, but what I will say is when you can say, at least I'm beginning to feel safe and there's consistency here and there's some trust that's being built where, and you can even trust yourself that, you know, if he doesn't talk to you again after that, you're not going to be brokenhearted. You have to make sure you're in a good place. I think that we lie to ourselves way too much about that. I know I did. I'm the first to admit that. I would say, oh, I can hook up with a guy and it won't bother me. It totally did. It would kill me when they never called me or, you know, wanted to go out again. That it bothered me so bad. So I think that we're definitely getting too attached too soon. And one of the reasons is because we're sleeping together way too soon.
It's like creating a false sense of intimacy, just like texting in early dating. I find it creates a false sense of intimacy because there's no tone. You can think about what you're saying, and you're not really experiencing the person in real time.
It's true. It's a very vague, surfacey relationships, but we're interpreting it as something deep and intimate. But are they?
They could be, but again, it's not real. So what do you think is the best way to go about dating initially? Like, how do you set the tone for healthy communication, healthy seeing each other? Especially in the early days when, you know, nowadays where everyone's like, I don't want to text first. I don't want to do this first. I don't want to call first. Like, how do you just get over yourself, but at the same time do it tactfully?
So again, this is probably going to be out of the box, but that was one of the rules that I set for myself was that I was going to be very open and honest from the first date. So a lot of times someone will ask me like, did you ask them like what they're looking for on the first date? And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I gotten to the point where I didn't care if he never wanted to talk to me again. That was actually a good thing for me. That was a good, if I scared somebody off with a question, that was a wonderful thing for me. That showed me quicker that this isn't the right person for me. And I was very surprised to notice that from a lot of people, I got the feedback of, thank you for being intentional. I know you're not going to waste my time. And that showed me that they were in it like I was. I wanted to meet my person and not just date and date and date.
And also allow dating to be a teacher, right? So I had to look at myself in dating and understand what I'm getting wrong. And it was, mostly because I wasn't saying what I really wanted from that person in real time. I was witnessing them, watching them, deciding, what I wanted and what I didn't want. But at the same time, I wasn't conveying that to them. And so in this last situation, I had to stop. And a girlfriend of mine who's a therapist, she said, Alina, you need to actually practice telling this person where they didn't meet the standard. Even if you're confident they're not going to get it, just get into the practice of verbalizing, which is something that I struggled with because it's like, it's so ick. How do you tell a guy, listen, it's been date number 4. You didn't buy me flowers. That's a freaking deal breaker because it is. It's like chivalry is important. But how do you tell a grown man that without being embarrassed yourself that that's what you want?
I think that that's really important that and I'm actually really glad you just said that. Really quick, I'm going to tell you, my mother-in-law, she's been married 3 times. And right before I got married, she sat me down and she told me, she said, I learned that it wasn't the men. It wasn't that I was picking the wrong men. She said, it's that I wasn't using my voice. I just expected them to know. I expected them to pick up on my cues. I wasn't using my voice. So I do think that there is 2 sides to it where we have to be vocal. That is the huge difference between people who are married for 50 years and actually like each other and people who are just stayed married is that they had the hard conversations, the awkward conversations, because you have to. So I think that that's very important. But I also think that, everyone has different personalities and different characters. Some people, it's just not their thing. And you'll find that out very quickly.
And it's a good thing. I think the reason we don't ask the questions sometimes or have the tough conversations early is because we don't want to hear the answer. We want to still be in this little bubble or fantasy of how we want to perceive this person and hoping how they will show up versus the reality. I actually said that to that person. I wish you were like this because there are certain acts of chivalry that I really love to see in a man. It's what I'm used to. It's what I appreciate. It's what I respond to. And his response was, that's something I reserve for a woman that I'm, madly, deeply in love with. Like, you have to earn flowers from me. And I thought, to each their own, I'm not going to judge it. But that immediately told me this person is not what I want because we are not aligned in how we want to feel.
And a lot of women will wait weeks and months and a long time before they get that answer, when if you just come out with it and let them know, you get your answer and you can move on.
Exactly. It's the freedom of moving on.
And it's cutting the cycle of time wasting. Stop the time wasting. Like I said, it's such a numbers game. If we can learn these little cues and stay to our boundaries, the process will speed up so much quicker.
Absolutely. And do you find that a lot of women stay months, even years, expecting for someone to change?
Absolutely. We might get a glimpse of what we want, or maybe they'll even show us, that they're capable of being that person. So again, if we have that anxious attachment, we hold on and we just, attach, and we begin to prove to them that we're worth having that side of them. And it becomes really like torture to ourselves because every day that we don't get it, it's because I wasn't doing something enough. It's because I wasn't giving enough. I wasn't pretty enough, or whatever it may be. But it becomes my fault.
Right. But it's not about you. It really is about this other person's capacity to give you what you want. And the second you can get very clear on what it is that you want and stand behind it fully, the world is a different place. It truly is.
It truly is. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons my husband and I got married so quickly was when we went on our first date, we just kind of sat at a picnic bench and like talked for like 3-4 hours. And I could instantly tell this guy is a family man. I could feel it. I could see it just from the stories he was telling. He was a family man. He wanted to be a husband and a dad, and that's what he wanted. And then later when I met his family, Oh my gosh, all the men in his family, they're family men. They're good, wholesome men. And he came from that. And, he didn't have a long history of, really bad relationship endings or, hurting women. He didn't have that history. He was overall a good guy. And I saw that difference in him on really, truly on our first date. I saw it. It was something different.
Did you think that would be possible for you, that type of relationship, especially everything you've gone through?
At that point, I did, just because I kept telling myself, I would even watch movies and see these like beautiful love stories. And I would say, that's what I'm going to have. That's what's coming to me. And I held on to it like my life depended on it. And I knew I had to. So I guess, realistically, probably not. I probably had that belief system, but I was really working on it, that I deserved what, all my friends had, or what, normal people, what I call it, normal people in this world have. Like, I deserve that too. And I did. I got someone that truly adores me consistently. We've been together 4 years now. And it's a consistent thing. It's not a one day I love you, one day I don't know. No, it's consistent of, love and faithfulness and loyalty and trust. And it's a consistent thing.
Yeah. So I'd love to know how you work with your clients to bring them to this realization out of the trauma, out of the self-doubt, out of the limited, belief in themselves. How do you get them through?
One of the things I do is I'm a big believer and I practice EMDR. I love EMDR. It's one of the best treatments for trauma. And so we work on the trauma of where that belief system came from. Like I said, mine came from, my father, and not believing I was worthy. If I'm not worthy for him, why would I be worthy for anyone else? So it had to start there. And then I kind of throw in some CBT in there of belief systems and thought patterns. But the difference, like I said, I really like to work aggressively. And so you have to be committed to it. It's like, and I kind of explain it like this: you can't commit to changing your physical body. And so you say, I'm going to go to the gym every day. That's wonderful. But I'm also eating McDonald's for 3 meals a day. It doesn't work like that. And so that's what I tell people is we can do EMDR, we can do therapy. But if you're leaving here and going right back to, I'm not good enough, all my friends have these beautiful relationships, but I'll never have them, you have to be committed to, I can have what, these other people have. I'm worthy of it. Even if you don't believe it, but you want to believe it, that's enough. That's plenty to start with. So I'm kind of there as their cheerleader, reminding them, come back to the truth. Don't let go of the truth. Even if you have to set it on your Apple Watch, like 3 times a day to remind yourself, because we get stuck in that negative way of thinking of, no, I choose. It's a choice. I choose to believe the truth.
And we decide what the truth is for ourselves.
100%.
It's not
100%.
it's not what society told us. It's not what our parents told us. It's not what our former spouses told us. It's what we believe about ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I was saying earlier about mine started with, I just wanted to love myself. That's all it was. I was tired of saying to myself every day, I hate myself. I hate this. I hate that. And, I heard the concept of people actually loving themselves, but I had never experienced it. And I just made a decision of, I want that to be my truth. And now it is.
A lot of people think they love themselves, but what is truly loving yourself? What does that look like?
Ooh, I love that question. The best way I can describe it is when you say you love yourself, but your actions and your behaviors do not back that up, then it's just an attitude. It's just an attitude. Oh, I love myself. It's just words. It's just an attitude. But you truly love yourself when your actions and behaviors show that you love yourself, that you choose yourself, that you stick up for yourself, that you put yourself first. When you're doing and your behavior is showing that, that's when you love yourself.
You know what worked for me? I did two things. So I made a list of how I want to feel, and I stick to that list because of how much I love myself. Because if I love myself truly, and if I'm allowing myself to feel depleted or whatever it is by these external circumstances, then I know that's when I'm losing, the connection to myself. And I have to come back to that and say, how do you want to feel in this situation? And if you don't feel good here,
I love that. That was very similar to my journey as well, was I committed to feeling good. And I tell people that a lot. Like, it doesn't have to be hard. Symbolize it. Like, create something that you look forward to every single day. Even if it's, I'm going to paint my nails tonight. I'm going to watch my favorite show. I'm going to go through the drive-through line at Taco Bell. I don't care what it is, but you deserve to feel good every single day. Every day you deserve to feel good. And for a lot of us, that's a new concept.
it is such a new concept. Oh my gosh, because we're so used to, well, I have to suffer to earn my life. I have to work really hard and beat myself down and do all the things. And at the end of the day, if I haven't done enough, then I still need to do more. And then I got to set it, it's like we're torturing ourselves. But simply accepting the fact that feeling good and being happy, it's not an earned thing, that only a certain small group of extremely pretty successful people can feel. It's like, it is your birthright. It is your God-given birthright to genuinely feel good. So what can you do to be in that state? And better yet, what can you not do to be in that state? And who can you remove from your life that's pulling you away from that state? And truly honor that every single day with every decision that you're making. And that's how your life changes.
And it's like we're both saying, like, you have to commit to it, though. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because those thoughts come on too strong. The emotions come on too strong. So we have to be louder. We have to be stronger and fight back and say, no, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do these things because I know that I'll feel good when I do them. And I deserve to feel good.
Yeah. Dr. Natalie Harvey, I feel so much better after this conversation, and I look forward to more with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Is there anything in closing you'd like to say?
I would like to say that you asked me earlier if anyone or if everyone can heal. And I truly want to say, when I healed, that taught me that anyone could heal, because I could share some of the craziest stories that I've been through that you would never believe. But it's all because I did not love myself. And I can, again, honestly say today that I do love myself. And so anyone that feels like they're too broken, it's not the truth. It is not the truth. You just need maybe that person to hold your hand to show you how to get through this. Or maybe it's just listening to podcasts like this over and over and over until you believe it. But you can absolutely heal.
Where can people find you, and how can they start some of your courses?
I just started working with a beautiful company. I'm partnering with Kindwell. And you can actually work with me one-on-one on that platform. And we are actually working on a new workshop right now, just learning about how to emotionally regulate, get those emotions down so that we can logically think and give our logical brain a chance. And so I'm really excited about what's coming up. But yeah, if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can definitely do that through Kindwell. Kindwell really has like this beautiful heart towards mental health, and I wouldn't be working with them if they didn't. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Natalie.
It was my pleasure, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Oh, we will, for sure. Thank you so much for tuning in to Breaking Through with Alina Obervian. For our community to grow, please like and share, and also leave a review on this episode. Of course, you can find me on social media and let me know what you'd like to talk about in future episodes. Nothing is off limits, so let's have some fun.